buckle up, because today we're diving deep into some really fascinating territory. Spiritual emergencies.
Yeah, it's where psychology and spirituality kind of bump up against each other, you know?
Exactly. And sometimes those traditional ideas about mental health, well, they just don't quite fit the picture.
And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting.
So, before we get ahead of ourselves, can we define what we mean by spiritual emergency? It sounds kind of intense.
It can be, for sure. The article you shared, it actually defines it as a critical and turbulent transition. Kind of catchy, right?
I like it.
Anyway, it goes on. Where an individual's sense of self is dramatically challenged, often leading to a more expanded and spiritual awareness.
Okay, so it's not just a case of the Mondays. We're talking about something bigger, something that really shakes you up.
Right. And you know what's wild? This whole idea that these experiences, as tumultuous as they can be, they can actually be like catalysts for incredible personal growth.
So instead of fearing these intense experiences, maybe we should be looking at them as opportunities for transformation.
Exactly. But that's where things get tricky.
How so?
Well, traditional psychiatry, it often misses the mark with this stuff. They see the emotional intensity, the upheaval, and they just label it as a problem to be fixed.
Like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone.
In a way, yeah. Traditional psychology, with its focus on the brain and behavior, it's like it doesn't have the right tools to understand what's really going on during these spiritual emergencies.
So we end up trying to cram these really profound, possibly even transformative experiences into this narrow box of mental illness.
It's like that Chinese saying crisis. It's danger and opportunity, all wrapped up in one neat little package. And we often miss the opportunity part.
I like that. So what you're saying is what might look like a breakdown could actually be a breakthrough.
It's a radical idea, right? And it really forces us to rethink our whole understanding of mental health and the human experience in general.
Okay, so we're talking about these experiences that can really rock our world, maybe even make us question our own sanity. But what I'm hearing is they might not be bad in the traditional sense. They could be pushing us towards some kind of transformation. Groff's article mentions all kinds of these spiritual emergencies. Can we dig into some specific examples?
Sure, yeah.
I'm really curious about this shamanic crisis thing. It sounds intense.
Oh, it can be, definitely. Imagine like a world where becoming a healer involves going through this brutal initiation process, you know, visions, facing down spirits, maybe even like a symbolic death and rebirth.
Whoa, that's some heavy stuff, like something straight out of an adventure movie.
Right. It's pretty wild. But that's basically the shamanic crisis in a nutshell. And Groff, actually, he talks about how these intense trials, they're often rooted in these really ancient traditions, right? They force the shaman to confront their deepest fears, you know, their shadow self, and then they emerge as this stronger, more complete individual.
So it's like a trial by fire.
Exactly. And he even connects it to this wounded healer archetype. You know, someone who's been through the ringer themselves and they come out the other side with this incredible capacity for empathy and healing.
So someone today might be going through something similar, but instead of seeing it as a shamanic initiation, we might label it as, I don't know, a breakdown or something.
It's very possible. And that's where our modern understanding often falls short. We might try to medicate the symptoms instead of addressing like the underlying spiritual crisis that's trying to unfold.
Right, trying to force it back into the box. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, what about Kundalini awakenings? That's another one from the article that really caught my eye. But isn't that something that only happens to, like, yogis in far-off monasteries?
Yeah, you know, that's a pretty common misconception.
Really?
It's true. The Kundalini awakening, it's often associated with Eastern spiritual practices, for sure. It involves this potent energy, this Kundalini energy. It's often visualized as a serpent coiled at the base of the spine. And when it awakens, it's said to rise up through these energy centers called chakras, and it can lead to these really profound shifts in consciousness. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Groff, he points out that it's not limited to the East anymore. It's happening right here in the West, too.
Wait, hold on. You mean people are walking around experiencing this, like, intense energy surge, this awakening, even if they've never even set foot on a yoga mat?
It's happening. People describe it as this electrifying energy that courses through their body, intense emotions, sometimes even psychic experiences. And it can be pretty overwhelming, even terrifying, especially if they don't have a framework to understand what's happening to them. Groff even mentions this researcher, Lee Sanella, who's studied Kundalini awakenings extensively, if you're interested in going down that rabbit hole.
Wow. Okay, you've definitely got my attention on that one. We might have to do a whole other deep dive on that. Okay, let's shift gears a bit here to something I think a lot of people might have heard about, near-death experiences.
Yes. There's fascinating accounts of people who have died, clinically speaking, that is, and then they come back and they tell the tale, right?
Exactly.
And they often come back with these incredible stories of like light or meeting deceased loved ones, having life reviews, all sorts of things. Groff talks about how these NDEs can completely shatter a person's existing worldview.
Right, like their whole understanding of reality has been flipped on its head.
Precisely. They might come back with this newfound appreciation for life, this deep sense of interconnectedness, even psychic abilities. But as you can imagine, integrating such a profound experience back into normal life, that's a whole other challenge.
Yeah, it's like trying to fit an ocean into a teacup. You're also throwing past life experiences into the mix here. Is Groff saying that we've all lived before and those past lives are like impacting us right now? Because I have to admit, that one's a bit hard to wrap my head around.
It is a mind-bending concept, for sure. But Groff, he's documented numerous cases of individuals experiencing what appear to be memories from past lives. Often they surface during really intense therapy sessions. He suggests that these past life experiences, whether they're literal or symbolic, can hold valuable clues to understanding current life patterns, relationships, even unexplained fears or anxieties.
So it's like these memories, these experiences from other lifetimes are bubbling up to the surface, trying to get our attention.
In a way, yes. And Groff believes that by exploring these past life experiences, in a therapeutic setting, of course, we can actually gain valuable insights into our current challenges and ultimately heal these deeper layers of ourselves.
Okay, wow, we've covered some really wild territory here. Shamanic crises, Kundalini awakenings, past lives. It's a lot to process.
It really is.
But let's bring this back down to earth for a second. Say someone listening right now, they're feeling these intense energies, having these unusual experiences. What can they actually do about it?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And it's where Groff's approach to treatment gets really interesting. He's actually pretty cautious about us medicating these experiences away.
So no popping a pill and hoping it all goes away.
Not if we're trying to honor the transformative potential of these experiences, right? He really believes that suppressing these states with medication, it can actually hinder the healing process.
So what's the alternative? What does a more supportive approach look like?
Well, it's about creating a safe and nurturing space for the individual to explore these non-ordinary states of consciousness.
Okay, so instead of shutting down the experience, you're kind of leaning into it. Yeah. Trying to understand its deeper meaning.
Yes, exactly. And while he does mention specific therapeutic techniques like holotropic breathwork, which he actually developed to help people access and process these non-ordinary states,
right,
he also emphasizes the power of simple practices. Things like journaling, art therapy, even just spending time in nature.
Yeah, just getting out of your head a little bit.
Exactly. These can all be incredibly valuable tools for navigating these experiences.
It's like finding healthy outlets for all that energy and insight that's bubbling up.
Yes, precisely. But, there's a bit of a catch here. Groff acknowledges that finding appropriate support, it can be a real challenge.
How, Phil?
He highlights this lack of long-term facilities specifically equipped to guide people through these spiritual emergencies, which is a valid concern, I think.
That's a scary thought. Going through something so intense and not having anywhere to turn, no one who truly understands.
It's true, and it highlights this real gap in our current mental health system, a system that's often more focused on symptom management than deep healing and transformation.
It makes you wonder, after exploring all these different traditions, these experiences, are we missing something in our current approach to mental health?
It's a good question.
Could it be that some of what we label as, illness is actually this form of spiritual emergence trying to break through?
It's definitely something to ponder. And, it challenges us to expand our understanding of the human psyche, to acknowledge that there's this spiritual dimension to who we are. We've explored some pretty mind-blowing concepts today, and it's clear there's still so much we don't know. But by staying curious, by asking these tough questions, by remaining open to new possibilities, it allows us to have a much richer, more meaningful understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
If you're anything like me, your mind is buzzing right now. And that's the beauty of a good deep dive, isn't it? It leaves us with more questions than answers, this thirst for deeper exploration. So keep that curiosity alive, keep asking those big questions, and who knows what incredible insights you might uncover on your own journey of discovery. Until next time, happy diving.